Hello and welcome to another Lockdown Tuesday. This time it's the 20th of July 2021. Let's hope, Gary, that this is the last of the lockdowns.
This is GPTV, Phil. We're not going to talk about lockdowns because we know we're from the lockdown capital of the world. We kind of love it. We've become that, what's that syndrome called, where you actually become in love with your captor?
Stockholm Syndrome, Gary. Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, the children of the Stockholm Syndrome here in Victoria, Phil. And you know what? We're just going to roll with the punches and get used to it because no point, moaning about it, Phil, doesn't get you anywhere. So we'll just continue to work through it. Try to bring light and happiness to people all around the world, Phil, and try to sell some real estate.
We will, Gary, although we do have a responsibility to shout out to our viewers and say, if you haven't had your vaccination yet, go and get it. Now, there's been a lot of talk about, I'm not going to get the vaccine because there's so little COVID out there that I'm not going to worry about it. It's not going to affect me. I'm not going to get COVID. But what those foolish people are ignoring is that we need to have enough of the community vaccinated so that we don't have to go through a lockdown. So when we can get to 60 or 70% total vaccination of the population, it means that when we have an outbreak, we are less likely to go through a lockdown. So to all of those viewers that are complaining about the lockdown but have not gone to get their vaccination, understand this: you are part of the reason why we're still continuing to go through these lockdowns.
Well, Phil, 58,000 people, I think, got in a single day in the UK, caught the virus, Phil, and they're opening, they're celebrating their freedoms, they're opening, they don't care anymore. They say that there's less people getting sick and dying from it, or I shouldn't say getting sick, do get sick from it, but the strain, they say, maybe not as strong, Phil. So I don't know, it depends on what...
Let's be very clear again. Once we have enough of a community, a percentage of the community are vaccinated, then we will all learn to adjust with COVID outbreaks, and people will die like they die of the flu every year. So this is just something that we've got to do, but we do all need to vaccinate as quickly as possible.
It'd be good to travel again, Phil. I remember traveling. It seems like a distant memory since I jumped on an aeroplane, but we will be traveling again at some stage. Maybe this time next year we'll be able to...
Can you imagine the chaos at the airports when restrictions, when we open this country? I mean, Australians are really the world's best travellers. In fact, I think that's a statement of fact, not one of opinion, but Australians are great travellers. Can you imagine how difficult it's going to be to get a flight out of this country once we can all travel again? Everybody will be jumping on the phone, jumping online. You won't be able. There'll be an Australian internet meltdown as Australians try to book an exodus from this country.
Although, Phil, there was an article in The Australian about how expensive travel is going to become again. So that was interesting also to see that's, so you remember growing up, Phil, going overseas was just a bit of a dream because one couldn't afford to go overseas. Well, I don't know about your background, Phil, but I do know about your background, but it was difficult to go overseas financially because, it was a big, serious, significant expense. None of these frequent flyer points, just jump on a plane, go to Bali, kind of thing on Jetstar. It was an expensive business to go overseas, Phil. Do you remember those days? Very expensive.
Well, I remember that, and I challenge some viewers to send in some facts around this, but I'm going to tip this. I'm going to say that a return flight to, say, London, if you bought one of those in the late 70s or the early 80s, I reckon it's probably the equivalent of spending $20,000 to get there. And imagine if the average Australian had to spend $20,000 to go to London or go overseas, there'd be a lot less travel. So there are some things that have not kept pace with inflation. In fact, there are many things which have become so much cheaper over the years, but travel has to be one of them. But you're right, the Australian newspaper did say that there's going to be pressure on airlines once we do open up.
It will be one of those privileges, Phil. We all think traveling is a bit of a right, but it's going to come back to those days when we grew up, Phil, those humble years where going overseas was something that you had to make a big commitment and save for. And looks like it might go back to that. But look,
my tip, Gary, is that one of the most coveted items of 2020 summer of 2022, one of the most coveted items will be the Rosebud Caravan Park. Apparently, you've got to book in early there, but apparently that will be one of the coveted post-lockdown items.
Well, I did used to hang out a little bit at the Safety Beach Caravan Park, Phil. I'm going to probably remember the name at some stage, but nothing wrong with a good caravan park, Phil. An on-site van or a tent, nothing like that. Riding your bike around those tracks made many kids happy growing up in those days when, Phil, life was simple. But
the good old days, Gary, the good old days.
It's become a little bit more complicated now, Phil. We spoke a little bit about people getting the strap at school last week. And I'm sure young people today, the young millenniums, couldn't begin to understand getting the strap, getting the ruler, getting one around the legs or one on the hands.
Well, Gary, the young millennials would only know the strap if they watch 50 Shades of Grey, I think.
Well, they align the strap with a bit of a smile and a bit of a night out, Phil. They'd have to pay for the privilege today. Those days, it was something you wanted to stay well clear of. That's for sure. Now, Phil, a lot of people think in lockdown, real estate stops. And to a degree, it slows down. We can't have open inspections. We can't have auctions. Well, at least we can't have them live or in person. We can go online. Yet, here we are in July, a historically quiet month, and things are still pumping. Things are still opening online. And people who saw before when they could physically enter properties don't need to go back, Phil. They're happy to buy. They're happy to have a crack. And last week, we sold a number of properties that sold pretty well. And talking about that, Phil, let's talk a bit about off the plan. Would you buy something off the plan, Phil?
Absolutely, I would. And there's many reasons too. And that's obviously the segue to talk about our new projects division, Gary, which is run by Julian Millman together with Rafi Joffe and Jacob Kingston and Lisa Alberts. That's a part of our business that's going to grow quite dramatically. We've seen already a big uptake over the last 12 to 18 months. But I think you've got to be very cautious when buying off the plan about where you are buying. Who is the developer? What is the quality of construction? And I think one of the things that our team has been very careful about is making sure we know who the developer is and what is their track record, and for us to truly understand the nature of the development. Because if you don't know who you're buying from, what the quality of construction is, who's going to be the appointed builder, you do have to scratch the surface on this quite deeply. It's not like the finished product where you can go to an auction on the weekend having never seen the house, but if you understand real estate, you can walk around it, you can tap the walls, you can turn on the taps and flush the toilets. With off the plan, you've really got to do a bit more homework. But yes, I would, if I was confident about builder and if I really understand the product, and I was also confident that the salesperson really understood what they were selling to me, yes, I would.
So let's do 3 top tips. And we haven't rehearsed or even thought about this. I'm throwing it at you because we like to do that on GPTV. Some people say, oh, you were scripted. And absolutely no idea even what we're talking about half the time. Actually, most of the time we come to the show. But if you have to have 3 top tips to a buyer buying off the plan, I'll put the first one up there while you think of number 2 and 3. 3 top tips for buying off the plan. Number 1 is work out who the developer is and see their previous work. Would that be a good one, Phil?
I think that's very appropriate, Gary, and that probably is very clearly the top item. Although the caveat around that, Gary, is if I had a really good architect that I knew quite well that had never done something off the plan, but they were the ones that were going to completely supervise. It was their plans, and they had involvement in the project, and they were really hands-on. There are exceptions to what you've said, but I think that is the number 1. I think the number 2, interestingly, is find yourself a good solicitor that is a commercial solicitor. And what I say by that is there's a lot of solicitors that have not had any experience with off the plan, and therefore some of those solicitors that have had no experience end up making it difficult for their client to buy because they're being overly cautious. So I think
deal killers.
Well, I'm glad you said it, not me, Gary, but you're right. Deal killers. There is a certain solicitor with certain understandings around off the plan, and then there are others who have had no experience. Therefore, they're probably dotting their I's and crossing their T's so much that the deal doesn't get done. But I think if you apply number one together with number two, then you're off and running.
And maybe number three, Phil, could be clear about what the space size is. You know, there's some people that buy off the plan and they said, oh, I thought the rooms that I saw would be bigger, or I didn't know it would be that big. I got a pleasant surprise, it's bigger than I thought. How does one actually get a feel for the space and the sizes, Phil?
So this is the number one thing that our team works with, where somebody's come in to look at a project and it's day one in the marketplace for them. One of the first things that we've got to do is educate the buyer around space sizes so that they actually understand the space that we're getting. And one of the things that we always do is we say, look, measure your bedroom at home, measure your bathroom at home, and then you'll have an understanding of what space is. Because if you live in a bedroom that's, call it a smallish bedroom, is 3 meters by 3 meters. So if you're buying off the plan and your main bedroom is 3 meters by 3 meters, then you're going to be living in a fairly small bedroom, which might be smaller than the bedroom that they live at home. But if you're buying a 2-bedroom apartment and the second bedroom is 3 by 3, that's actually quite acceptable. But your main bedroom, you really got to judge the size of the plan based on what you're used to living. And some people live in a really large bedroom, Gary, and they come to the conclusion, actually, I don't need a bedroom that is this large. But having an understanding of plans via what you're currently live in, and then talking that through with a consultant, because a consultant will challenge you. You know, do you really need a kitchen that is that big? And a lot of downsizers often struggle with this, where they think they need to replicate their house, where if you really challenge them on it and get them to understand the new spaces as to how they're living. And an interesting point around that is we've got some empty nesters that are living in, call it in the old term, 45 square houses. And they say, oh, there's no way I could live in a 20 square apartment. And yet if you challenge them and you say, well, how much of your house do you actually use? And they go, oh, well, I get up in the morning, I go into my ensuite bathroom, I then walk down the stairs to my kitchen and I sit in my meals area, and then I watch telly at night in my television room. They're probably living in about 12 squares.
You know what, we're sport for space too in Australia. We don't realise it. I remember doing the study tour in New York a few years ago, speaking to the agent and talking about some of the smaller apartments in New York. And I remember, never forget his analogy or comment is, look, the apartments in New York are so small that you can sit on the toilet, start the kettle on the left and turn on the shower to the right, because that's how small the apartments were there. So we are sport for space, but let's just review, Phil, the top three, and we'll put them on the screen. Number one is understand and do your homework on the developer. We'll put a little ding next to that one. Number one, thank you. Number two, Phil, is make sure that you understand the solicitor that you get must understand the document. So get a solicitor to understand.
They must be commercial, Gary. Must be commercial. We can help you with a range of solicitors around that.
And number three, get to know the spaces and sizes. The three key important things in buying off the plan. Phil, a bit of a guide there, which I'm sure GPTV viewers will be delighted to know, because off the plan, Phil, you can buy some beautiful properties, and you do get still a saving, if I'm not mistaken. The stamp duty saving, are you clear about what that looks like?
Well, Gary, I'm not going to give stamp duty advice on GPTV, but there are a number of projects where there are stamp duty savings. It really depends on the project. It also depends on the buyer, but certainly I think, and if there was to be a fourth item, one of the joys of buying off the plan too, Gary, is that if you get in early enough, you're able to make changes and personalise an apartment. And that is a huge benefit for so many of our clients that really want to live in a particular way. And this gives them the opportunity to do that.
And I think that's just happened, Phil, at 80 Westbury Street in one of our off-the-plan projects. We've just sold one of the units there, Phil, and look, we won't say exactly the price, but it's well in excess of $1 million. And I think that particular buyer had a few special needs.
Absolutely, Gary, and that's what got that sale away. Is first of all that developer has a strong track record, particularly in that street where this is their third project. But the buyer had some particularities as to the way they wanted to live. They went backwards and forwards between our special projects team and the developer, where we tailored certain changes for that particular owner, and they wouldn't have got that anywhere else without actually having to do the renovation themselves. So a great bonus.
And Phil, another project we're doing in Dandenong Road, 462 to 464 Dandenong Road. We've just sold a property there. Another one of those apartments for just under $1 million. Phil, that is a really good project, that Dandenong Road.
Shout out to Rafi Joffe and the developer there, because Rafi, I think that was his 10th sale in the building. That is a really good building in Dandenong Road, because you've got a whole range of different size apartments and different price ranges, but essentially between, call it 700,000 and $1.3 million. You've got the tram at your doorstep. You can walk to Malvern train station, Armidale train station, Glenferrie Road, Wattletree Road. You could not get a more convenient location.
And Gerald, 117 Gerald Street, Murrumbeena, sold for 790,000. There's a few other sales, but the prices are undisclosed, so it's just boring talking about properties where no one knows the prices, I find. What's been on Netflix for you this week, Phil? I know you're a bit of a Netflix junkie.
Well, Gary, I watched a French series called Lupin, Lupin, which, funnily enough, we were watching it and we kind of thought, oh, should we bother with this? And it just drew you in, and you got to the end of it. And I've got to tell you, am I happy that I watched it? It was entertaining. The whole world has watched it. Apparently, it's got massive reviews around the world. But on balance, can I get that 5 hours back in my life? Probably not. But do I need to? It was spent sitting on the couch, relaxing and unwinding. So I suppose it was useful. But yes, Lupin is my latest series that I've finished.
Well, you know, I know you do this. You and Irene, you will turn off a series, won't you? You'll watch a few episodes and you'll just abandon it. You're quite ruthless that way, aren't you?
Well, we are, Gary, but we've made the mistake on a number of series a number of times. So probably the old favourite of ours, I think we've watched it about 5 times before we got into it. We'd watch the first episode and go, oh, this is ridiculous. Why would we watch it? And then we go, no, we got to push through it. We got to the second episode. We did that about 5 times. Had to watch the first and the second episode 5 times. Game of Thrones. We finally got into it. It was incredible. But yeah, look, we're known to surf through Netflix and Amazon Prime and Stan and Binge and Disney.
Oh. And Phil, look, it was a bit like that with Breaking Bad. You know, some people sort of gave up on it or thought, oh, it's a bit slow. But that was probably the most addictive thing I've ever seen in my life. And you're a guy that walks out of movies as well, aren't you? You'll walk out of a movie, won't you?
I don't walk out of that many movies, but look, if it's after a half an hour and I'm hating it,
yeah,
like what's to stay for?
I've never walked out of a movie in my life. I couldn't come to terms with it. I've invested in the ticket. I feel like I'm committed to it, to give them a chance. But there are people out there. If you've got anything to say about that, tell us about ideas on well, there it is now. ideas@garyp.com.au, because there are and then what about when you go on a date? And you go to a movie and the person you're with wants to walk out of the movie, but you want to watch the movie, or vice versa. How's that going to work out for the date? I'm interested in how that works.
Dating in the new world, though, Gary, is you meet for a coffee or you meet for a drink, right? And it's all pre-scheduled. The mobile phone changed dating in so many ways. Obviously, everyone meets their partner these days through some sort of dating site, Tinder, swipe left, swipe right, I don't even know. But bottom line is, the whole world, and particularly the post-COVID world, Gary, everything has sped up so incredibly. And me, for one, I personally love change. I love the speed of change. But, as I say, you've only got 24 hours in a day, Gary. Take out 8 hours of work and for people like us, 10 or 11 hours. Take out somewhere between 6 and 8 hours of sleep, or for you, 4 hours. You've only got a certain amount of time left. So as you get to our age, Gary, you've got to realize you've got to be ruthless with your time. What would be the point of sitting through something that is tedious and slow when there is something else you could be doing? So life's about choices. It's all about opportunity cost.
So going back, Phil, you're saying that the old date that you used to have, so if you're a young person today on a date, you're a male or female on a date, the yawn in the cinema, with the arm around, that doesn't work anymore. Is that what you're saying? That's gone?
Well, Gary, all of that's gone. Everything's been sped up, and far be it for us to talk about what the young generation are doing dating wise, but everything that we did has been sped up to the tune of 50.
You talked about 4 or 5 hours sleep. We've got into a very bad habit in the peer home now. We actually went to sleep on Saturday at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. and it'll be 3 a.m. It's got a bit out of control. I think it's throwing my because I haven't got options on.
So the question is, what are you doing at 4 a.m.?
Yeah.
Like what was possibly happening that was anywhere worthwhile at 4 a.m.?
Very busy, Phil, between Netflix and reading the news and watching what's happening internationally and catching up on some of the recorded stuff. It's very emails. There's a lot going on, Phil. Doing the form for for Saturday meeting. There's a lot going on, Phil.
You know what, Gary? I have a theory, and this is the theory that's borne out by police departments pretty much all over the world, in the developed world anyway. Nothing good happens after 12 a.m.
Oh, it does in our house. We do everything good.
No, it doesn't. I mean, if you look at all crime, you speak to any police, they'll say everything's fine up until 12. But it's all after 12 where the wheels fall off. So, at 4 a.m., I don't believe there's anything possible that's happening at your place that has got any degree of sensibility.
Well, there's never any sensibility in the peer home, but I tell you what, it comes to light. You come over at 2 o'clock, the peer's still happening. Shouldn't say that in lockdown, of course. But Phil, also, for those people who've been following my horses, they've been going terribly. I'm sorry if you've got those people, because I know some people follow them around, but all of our hopes are in Order of Command, Phil, which maybe runs on Saturday in the election, where we're hoping for a form reversal and a bit of a place bet at odds. Phil, let's move on to our auctions coming up this weekend. We hope and we presume we won't be in lockdown. We can't actually wait for the weekend, Phil, because tonight, Philip, Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, we're zooming on for that Paran Grove property. You want to tell us a little bit about that, please? Well,
Gary, we love Paran Grove, and this is a single-story villa, one of only 2, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, double lock-up garage. Move straight into this. Paran Grove's an incredible location. So if you're managing to watch this show, you can still send us a text and get a link to the Zoom auction. That should go well, Gary. That's a really good property. Shout out to Nikki and Ben, who've been handling that property together. Should go well.
Phil, we've got a fair few auctions coming this weekend. Should we start reviewing them very quickly?
Let's hope, Gary, we're out and about this weekend, because who knows, the question will be, will we be released from captivity in order to be able to do them in the physical sense? Let's get into them anyway.
I fear not and think not, Phil, but let's presume as is, because otherwise I'll be zoomed, or I'll be offered, or I'll be selling before, or I'll be postponed. We'll start off, Philip, at 11:30 a.m. We're going to get you out and about in your hood, not far from your home, Philip, in Windsor, 17 Somerset Place. What a great looking 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2 parking space this one is. Graham Cullen listed it, Phil. We've got double auction action.
And what a great location. When you buy that, Gary, you walk to one of my favorite cafes, which I've actually talked about on that video, which is Tokyo Tina. Shout out to the team that run Tokyo Tina, because they have got the best brisket bao, the best corn balls, the best sashimi, and then follow it up with their donuts, the hot served donuts with lemon curd. Oh, shoot me now so I can go to heaven and just eat those donuts.
The terrific Tokyo Tina team endorsement right there, Phil. We've got double auction action at 12:30 in Elizabeth Street, McKinnon. This is a great looking property. Legal Samuel Auctions, Phil.
And he's very lucky to do so, Gary, because that's a great home. I did a video tour there as well. That's just been renovated so beautifully by the current owners. What a job they've done. What a livable, lovable, beautiful home.
Go online and check it out, and check out the video tour for it. 74 Hawthorne Road, Phil, is your 12:30 auction. We're looking forward to that one coming to the market, hopefully.
Well, directly opposite Caulfield Park, Gary, doesn't get much better than that. And check out the terrace on that apartment. Doesn't really get any better.
Phil, if you haven't been to that cafe on the corner of, is it called Carver? The corner of St George's Road, the Huntley Road. It's Carver and Co. Or
no, it's Lovett and
Carter.
Yeah, Carter and Lovett.
Carter, love it. Well, I tell you, I do love it. I've been there, and the chicken salad is something to behold. Phil, 8 at 5, St George's Road, Elstree. That's a great spot. It's Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Jeremy Rosen's auctions is fantastic, beautiful. 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. 1 parking space property, Philip, at 2:30 with a double auction action. You're off for the day, Phil. We've only got a couple. I've got no auctions because I was supposed to be away next weekend, Phil. But of course, I am restrained here in beautiful, sunny, lockdown Melbourne. Yeah. Okay, 2:30, Philip. 5 at 124 Murrumbina Road, Murrumbina. Graham's Callum is auctioning, and he's been handling this wonderful 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1 parking space. And Phil, at 2:30 on Saturday, we're auctioning at 12B Clapham Road, Bentley. Jeremy Rosen's is the auctioneer. Great looking home, this 4-bedroom, 3 bathrooms, 2 parking, Phil. And again, another one scheduled for 2:30 on Saturday. So, Phil, these are the auctions scheduled for this weekend. We know we've got a slightly extended lockdown. We're not quite sure whether it's now, at the moment this goes to whether we're going to be able to have them on site or not. If not, they'll be Zoomed auctions. Not they'll be rescheduled, but let's anyway talk about.
I think just on that note, Gary, before we jump into them, let's just be clear that whilst there's this degree of uncertainty, any property that the viewers are interested in buying that is scheduled for an auction this weekend, they really do need to touch base with the salesperson or any of our team just to check in to see, is the auction going ahead via Zoom, and of course, or has the auction been rescheduled?
Well, that's it, Phil. Look, at this stage, we are marching on with these properties. So they are available to be bought. We may as well review them anyway, Phil, and talk about what they are. One thing we are certain of is there is a lot of uncertainty out there. That's for sure. Anyway, these are the ones coming up this weekend. Phil, Sunday, 10:30 a.m., you are scheduled to be in Bamber Road. It's as easy as 123 because that's the number. 123 Bamber Road, Caulfield.
What a beautiful home. That is a lovely period style 2-story home, Gary. Everything to love about this home. The position there is incredible. Walk to Caulfield Park, walk to the tram in Balaclava Road or Glen Huntley Road or Hawthorne Road. You really don't get a better position than that.
No lockdown for you, Phil. We've got a busy Sunday. You've got 6 auctions scheduled for you to run. You're 11:30, you're going to be at 4B. Heatherbray Avenue, Caulfield, great looking property. This
beautiful home. I'm working together with Graham Callan on that, Gary. What's not to love? That is just magnificent in every possible way.
Little River Band, Phil, had a song in the 70s called Emma. Talked about Pretty Emma, and it is a pretty home at 3 at 1 at Emma Street, Caulfield South, our 12:30 auction that you will be running. Excited about that one, Phil?
Gary, it's a beautiful home, and I've got the pleasure of working with Rafi Joffe and young Jacob Kingston on that. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms with a frontage to Rothschild Street, whilst it's got an Emma Street address, a Rothschild Street entry, and be part of the Caulfield South stroke Glen Huntley Road, Glen Huntley Groove there.
Phil, while you're there, Leo Samuels in his hood auctioning together with Jack Slater, who's been handling this wonderful property, 4B Maud Street, due also Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Get down and have a look at that fine 4-bedroom home. Phil, at 1:30, we have got the auction of 3 at 156 On Road. Now, this is a great block. It's got a bit of a reputation on the corner there. That nice little side street. I think it might be Nyora. I'm not sure. Nyora,
Gary, Nyora Court. And what a great location that is. And that's a small boutique building, if I'm not mistaken, Gary. Only 4 in the building, 2 on the ground floor, 2 on the first floor. And always hard to find a 3-bedroom apartment. So this is a very, very large apartment.
Leo Samuel is auctioning for his brother, Aviv, in Wraith Court, a great spot, St Kilda Reefs, 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom. That's at 1:30. Phil, also a couple of apartment auctions at that time. Phil, at 2:30, you're going to be at this wonderful property in Sebastopol Street. We love this development. 202 1A Sebastopol Street. Let's talk a bit about this one.
Gary, what an incredible building. This is probably one of the best quality buildings you're ever going to see anywhere in Melbourne. Everything has been finished to the highest of standards, and the quality here, and not only the quality, Gary, but the calibre of people that have moved into this building. We know most of them, all really, really good people. So whoever buys into this building, you know, the added bonus is that they're buying into a building where people are going to be really proud of the home that they're living in.
As you say often at the auctions, Phil, there's not an axe murderer amongst them. And I always correct you and say, not a convicted axe murderer.
Correct. There are some unsolved axe murders, Gary, that are yet to make the light of day.
Don't let that put you off. I'd still be buying there. Phil, 43 Snowden Avenue brings down the curtain. Daniel Peer has been handling this property. What a fantastic parcel of land, north facing at the back, Phil. You're not going to be able to go and have a look at this house. It's all fenced off, but we know that that land is gold right in the heart.
Gary, as Mark Twain, the famous American novelist, said many years ago, invest in land. They're not making any more of it. And certainly to find a parcel like that in Snowden Avenue, which has always been a great address, that's about as rare as the proverbial hen's teeth.
Indeed, Phil, and that is a big wrap on the offerings coming up this weekend. Again, keep in touch with our office because, there are some restrictions of the auction. Some have to be outside, some you have to be registered for, some are going to be into our rooms, but they're nevertheless, that is the offerings of the properties that we've got, Phil. But we do have a featured property to talk about also before we go, Phil. Before we run off, we've got to talk about 38 Filbert Street, Caulfield South, because what a spunky, hot, great-looking property this is, Phil. I know I'm saying it's spunky and that's an old-fashioned term, but 38 Filbert Street, Caulfield South, a beauty to behold. Tell us a bit about this.
Well, Gary, it doesn't get any better than this. And of course, Filbert Street is one of those just great locations. We've always loved the block between Glen Huntly Road and North, and Kooyong through to Hawthorne through to Bamborough Road. We've always loved that location, as we have from Hawthorne through to Kooyong Road as well. But just a great address, and that whole location, Gary, is just getting so much better as cafes seem to open up continually, and people are spending a lot of money renovating the houses and building brand new houses down there. So I just can't recommend that location enough. And since the council upgraded Princess Park, what a community asset that's become.
Caulfield South, a hot suburb. It's always been good. We've always been spruiking it, and it just keeps getting better, Phil. Even though you didn't think it was possible, it's found a way to keep getting better. And that's a big wrap on GPTV, a summary of this July, which is so often a very quiet month where not much happens, but not this month. Even in lockdown, we are renting, we are listing, we are selling, we are auctioning, we're finding ways to break through to make it all happen in the world of real estate. And we'll continue to bring you the news on GPTV. I'm Gary Peer.
I'm Philip Kingston. Have a great continuation of the mighty lockdown where we all get to know each other and love each other just that little bit more.